Hi guys, welcome to the principles of homeostasis and negative feedback. So in terms of the specification, we need to know the definition of the homeostasis, and we need to be able to interpret data on the negative and positive feedback. So homeostasis, okay, it's the maintenance of a constant internal environment. So this is due to response to changes in the conditions of the external environment. So homeostasis utilizes the endocrine system and the autonomic nervous system to maintain its internal balance. And the homeostasis is a self-adjusting mechanism involving feedback, where the response to the stimulus alerts the internal conditions. So the hypothalamus part of the brain is the one that controls the homeostasis. And the importance of homeostasis could have plenty examples. I'm just going to show you one. So for instance, okay, the temperature increases. Increase in temperature, it's going to cause the denature of the enzymes. So for example, enzymes involved in the respiration are going to stop working because obviously they denature, so the rate of respiration decreases. Same, for example, with the water potential. So if there is a difference, and the osmosis will take place from higher to lower water potential, okay, or so that could cause the cell to shrink, for example. So there are plenty of examples that you could easily find them and make lovely links to show the importance of homeostasis. So the advantage of the constant internal environment is found in organisms because they are more independent of changes in external environment. So they could achieve wider geographical range and they could survive in different habitats. So few definitions before we get started. So the optimum point, okay, it's the point, the level, the norm at which the system will operate best. And optimum point is monitored by receptors. They detect any deviation from the optimum point, and the receptor informs the coordinator, which then the information will be taken from the receptors and sends the instructions to the effector, which could be a muscle or gland that brings changes needed to return system to the optimum level. This then will create a mechanism, the feedback mechanism, so the receptor responds to a stimulus created by change to system brought about by effector. So what happens when the conditions will increase above the norm? So starting from the normal conditions, stimulus will detect any change, will send the information to the receptor. The receptor will then inform the self-regulatory system, which will then lead to decrease in that condition. And that once the condition decreases, it's going back to the normal, the negative feedback will occur and the receptor will be informed, saying that the stimulus, that increase, it's not longer there because we come back to the normal point. The same will take place when the condition decreases below normal. So the normal starting point, okay, the stimulus, it's the decrease below the norm, that will then inform the receptor, which sends the information to the self-regulatory system that puts this brings in this place to increase the condition, bring it back to norm. Once it's back to norm, the negative feedback will occur, and the stimulus, obviously, it's not longer there because we come back to the normal point. So the advantage of the negative feedback is to separate negative feedback mechanisms, controls departures from the norm in either direction, gives a higher degree of homeostatic control. So negative feedback then, a few questions here. So in humans, when the stomach starts to become full of food, receptors in the wall of the stomach are stimulated, and this leads to negative feedback on the desire to eat. So suggest why this negative feedback is important, because it stops this desire, stops the wish to eat. So that will then limit the amount of food eaten, so reduces, for example, the risk of obesity. Another example here, we've got the diagram, so you can pause the video now. And once you read this information and once you've seen the diagram properly, you need to explain why this is then the example of the positive feedback. So we're looking at the helper T cell. Okay, what can we see? The helper T cell here. Okay, that will lead to the formation. Okay, because we've got this interferon gamma. Okay, so that will lead to the formation of more T helper cells. So more interferon gamma will be produced. Okay, so example before was to stop something, this is to produce more. And another negative feedback is the question that just asks you to describe what is meant by negative feedback. So where a change triggers a response, so that stimulus, which reduces the effect of a change. So what does that mean? Coming back to our previous diagrams which we had here, the negative feedback reduces the response, so it reduces the, for example, secretion of the hormones. So this is the definition that examiner would like to see if they ask about the negative feedback. But apart from the negative feedback, okay, that eventually will turn off the corrective mechanisms because the stimulus, it's no more there, it's being decreased, okay, come back to normal. We've got something opposite, we've got a positive feedback. So the positive feedback, it's the working in one direction, in the same direction of increasing the change, and this positive feedback remains turned on. So in terms of the questions we've got here, again, another diagram, you can pause the video now, read through this, and you need to use the information from the diagram to explain why this is a positive feedback. So from the diagram, you can see the osteocalcin, so which we've got here, okay, causes more insulin to be produced, okay. So insulin causes more osteocalcin as well. So as you can see, it's the cycle here. So if the insulin is produced, okay, it stimulates the production of the cells which will be secreted in the inactive form. But again, if that was the case, it will be then active, okay, because we need to stimulate B cells, and all the cycle keeps going on. So the processes that we could see in terms of the feedbacks could be to do with the temperature. So if the temperature is too high, the body got the processes in place to deal with the high temperature. So for example, decreased metabolism or sweating or vasodilation. Or in terms of the low temperatures, could be increased metabolism or vasoconstriction or decreased sweating. So those are the mechanisms that are taking place in the body to bring the temperature to the norm. And that's everything for the negative feedback. See you later.